I was 9 years old the first time my dreams learned how to wait. Most people think nightmares are chaotic, random flashes of fear stitched together by an overactive mind. Mine weren't like that. They were patient, observant, as if something on the other side of sleep was studying me, learning my routines, waiting for the right moment to step closer. The dream always began the same way. I would be asleep in my bed, but I wouldn't be inside myself. I hovered near the ceiling, motionless, staring down at my own small body wrapped in blue blankets. My chest rose and fell in slow, steady rhythms, completely unaware that I was being watched. From above. From myself. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't scream or move. I could only turn my head, scanning my bedroom like a security camera bolted into the corner of the ceiling. That alone was enough to terrify me. But then the room would start changing. The digital clock on my nightstand never showed the right time. Instead of counting forward, the numbers slipped backward, ticking away seconds that had already passed. I didn't know why, but seeing time reverse made my stomach twist in a way I couldn't explain. Then, there were the drawings. Crude crayon sketches taped to the walls, to my dresser, even to the back of my bedroom door. Stick figures holding hands, smiling too widely. There was always one smaller figure at the end of the line. Me. I never remembered drawing them. I hated drawing. Yet there they were, every single time, like evidence of something I had forgotten on purpose. And then there was the toy, a red plastic train set that I had lost years earlier. In the dream, it never stayed in the same place. Sometimes it rested near the foot of my bed. Other times it sat beside the closet door, angled as if it had been pushed there moments before I noticed it. The worst part wasn't any of that. It was the pull. A slow, irresistible urge that dragged my attention toward the window. I would try to resist. I really would. Every instinct screamed at me not to look. But dreams don't care about instincts. They guide you like invisible hands on your shoulders. The moment my gaze shifted to the glass, he was already there. A man stood inches from my bedroom window, staring straight at my sleeping body. His hair was short and gray, his face partially hidden by reflection. There was a dark mark on his forehead, like a healed cut. He never smiled. He just watched. Then his fingers curled, and he began clawing at the glass, slow, deliberate scratches that made no sound, yet somehow echoed inside my skull. That was when I woke up. Every time. I would bolt upright in bed, heart hammering, lungs burning like I had been underwater too long. Sometimes I ran straight to the window. Other times, fear glued me to the mattress. There were never scratches, never fingerprints, never footprints outside. Nothing that proved the man had ever been there. After the fourth time, my parents told me it was just a recurring dream. My father checked the locks. My mother tucked me in tighter. They told me nightmares couldn't hurt me. They were wrong. Because after almost 6 months of silence, the dream came back. And this time, the window was open. I woke up frozen. Not in the dream. In real life. My body refused to move. My arms wouldn't respond. My legs felt like they had been nailed to the mattress. Cold air brushed against my skin, sliding under the blankets like a living thing. My mind was screaming at me to look at the window. I didn't want to. I knew he would be there. 5 minutes passed like hours before I could finally move. When I forced myself to the window, it was locked tight. No sign of entry. But the cold lingered. From that night on, I started wondering if the dreams weren't showing me something that would happen, but something that already was. And that thought followed me for years, until the night my dreams stopped warning me, and started preparing me. The dreams changed after that night. Not all at once, not dramatically. They didn't need to. Fear doesn't announce itself when it already has your attention. For a while, the man stopped scratching at the glass. Instead, he just stood there, watching. I was older by then, maybe 11 or 12, and old enough to understand that something was wrong in a way adults didn't seem willing to acknowledge. My parents still asked if I was having nightmares, but they asked the way people ask about the weather, out of habit, not concern. I started lying. I told them the dreams had stopped completely. They hadn't. I just didn't want them dismissing it anymore. The out-of-body perspective remained the same. The clock still ran backward. The drawings still appeared in places I swore I had checked the night before. But the man outside my window no longer felt like a stranger. There was a familiarity to him that unsettled me more than fear ever could. I couldn't explain it at first. It was subtle, like recognizing a face in a crowd without knowing where you'd seen it before. My chest would tighten, not with panic, but with something closer to dread mixed with memory. One night, instead of looking at my sleeping body, I focused on him. He noticed. His head tilted upward, eyes locking onto mine. The real me, floating helplessly near the ceiling. His lips parted slightly, as if he were about to speak. I woke up before he could. That morning, I asked my parents a question I hadn't planned on asking. Did anyone ever babysit me when I was really little? My mom paused at the kitchen counter, her hand hovering over the coffee machine. My dad looked up from his phone a second too late to hide his reaction. It was small, but I saw it. Why? My mom asked carefully. No reason, I said. I was just thinking. They exchanged a look they thought I didn't notice. I did. That night, the dream took me somewhere new. My bedroom was the same, but the drawings had changed. The stick figures were gone. In their place were darker shapes, taller, more detailed. The house behind them had clearer edges now, a slanted roof, a single window glowing yellow. The toy train sat directly beneath the window, and the man wasn't outside anymore. He was inside the room, standing near the closet. I tried to scream. Nothing came out. Up close, I could see his face clearly for the first time. The scar on his forehead wasn't jagged like I had imagined. It was thin, surgical, old. He didn't look angry. He looked disappointed. You weren't supposed to remember, he said. I woke up choking on air. The next day, my parents sat me down without being prompted. They said there was something they should have told me earlier. There had been a man when I was very young, not family. Just someone my father trusted once. Someone who spent a lot of time around the house when my parents worked long hours. They didn't tell me his name at first. They didn't have to. I already knew it. It came to me in fragments. Echoes of a voice reading bedtime stories, the smell of aftershave, the feeling of being watched with too much focus. When they finally said his name, it felt less like learning something new and more like confirming something I had always known. They said they cut contact years ago, that he was gone, that I was safe. That night, the dream didn't come. Neither did the next. For months, I slept peacefully. No floating, no reversed clocks, no man at the window. I let myself believe that understanding had weakened it. I was wrong. Because when the dreams returned, they weren't about my past anymore. They were about what was coming. The first time the dream came after a quiet night, I knew something had broken. I was 14 by then. Old enough to stay home alone for a few hours, old enough to pretend fear was something I had outgrown. My parents were out late, and I fell asleep on the couch with the television humming low, the way I always did when I didn't want to think. That night I didn't float. I stood. I was in the hallway of my house, awake and alert, the floor solid beneath my feet. Every light was off, but the darkness wasn't empty. It felt arranged. At the end of the hallway, my bedroom door stood open. A yellow glow spilled from inside. I hadn't seen that light in years. I walked toward it, each step heavy with resistance, like the house itself didn't want me to move. When I reached the doorway, I realized something that made my stomach turn. The room on the other side wasn't my bedroom anymore. It was the living room, the couch, the television, the same spot where I had fallen asleep. And on the couch, I was sitting there, awake, watching the TV. The version of me in the dream turned its head slowly and smiled. I woke up instantly, heart slamming against my ribs. The TV was off. The house was silent, but the front door was unlocked. I checked every room with a kitchen knife clutched in my shaking hand. Nothing was missing. Nothing was disturbed. I locked the door and didn't sleep again until my parents came home. The next morning, my father found muddy footprints outside the front step. He told me it was probably nothing. The dreams became more frequent after that. Sometimes they showed me places I recognized, a friend's house, my school, the park near my street. But something was always wrong. Doors slightly open that shouldn't have been. Lights on in empty rooms. Sounds just out of reach. And every time I woke up, something in the real world was just a little off. A window unlatched. A gate left open. A light turned on that I was sure I had switched off. I stopped telling my parents. I started writing the dreams down instead. Dates, times, details. I didn't realize what I was doing until patterns began to form. The dreams didn't predict disasters. They predicted opportunities. Nights when the house was empty. Moments when someone could get inside unnoticed. Places where no one would hear me scream. The realization hit me like ice water. The dreams weren't warnings. They were rehearsals. One night, the dream ended with a sound I had never heard before. A knock, slow, careful, right outside my bedroom door. I woke up to the same knock echoing through the hallway. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The knock came again. Then a voice whispered, "My name." Not through the door. From inside the room. I screamed. Lights snapped on. My parents burst in. There was no one there, no unlocked doors, no signs of entry. But on my bedroom floor, beneath the window, sat a small red toy train. I hadn't seen it in years. Neither had they. After that night, my parents installed cameras, motion sensors, new locks. They told me everything would be fine. And for a while, it was. Until the dreams stopped altogether. Because that's when the real visits began. The night the dreams stopped, I slept better than I had in years. That should have been my first warning. No floating, no reversed clocks, no yellow light. Just darkness and rest so deep, it felt artificial. Like someone had flipped a switch in my brain. When I woke up, the house was quiet, in the way it usually was after midnight. Too quiet. The kind of silence that presses against your ears until you start listening for things you don't want to hear. I checked the cameras from my phone. All clear. Front door, locked. Back door, locked. Windows, closed. I lay there convincing myself that this was what normal felt like. I fell asleep. Again. Sometime later, a sound pulled me back to the surface. Not loud. Not sudden. A movement sound, fabric shifting against fabric, breathing that wasn't mine. I opened my eyes. The room was dark, but not completely. Moonlight spilled through the blinds in pale stripes across the walls. I could see my desk, my door, the outline of my closet, and a shape standing between them. Someone was in my room. My body refused to react. No paralysis. This time it was worse. Conscious fear. Calculated fear. The kind that makes every thought razor sharp. The shape leaned slightly forward, close enough now that I could smell him. Aftershave. The same scent I hadn't been able to place for years. "You don't need the dreams anymore," he whispered. "You learned to listen." My throat closed. I couldn't make a sound. He stepped closer, into the light. The scar was exactly where it had always been. "You were always good at that," he continued. "Listening. Watching. You were just like me." Something cold pressed into my hand. I looked down. The red toy train. "I left pieces behind so you wouldn't forget," he said softly. "You were forgetting." I finally found my voice. "What do you want?" He smiled, not wide, not cruel, fond. "I wanted to see if you still remembered me." Footsteps thundered in the hallway. My door flew open. Light flooded the room. And he was gone. No window open. No door unlocked. Nothing disturbed except the train, still sitting in my palm. The police came that night. Real police. Sirens, questions, statements. My parents didn't lie this time. They told the officers everything they had avoided for years. He had been obsessed with me, not in a way that left bruises or evidence, just a tension that lingered too long. Watching, waiting, memorizing. When my father confronted him, the man laughed and said he'd already left his mark. The officers never found him. They told us it was over. They were wrong. Because something strange happened after that night. I stopped having nightmares completely. No dreams at all. And every once in a while, maybe once a year, I wake up with that familiar smell in my nose and a certainty in my bones that someone had been standing just out of view, watching, not trying to come inside anymore. Just checking, making sure I still remember. I'm older now, old enough that people expect me to explain fear rationally, trauma, stress, an overactive imagination shaped by childhood memories. I've tried using those explanations myself. They work. Until they don't. Because something still follows me. Not every night. Not even most nights. Just often enough that I can't forget. I don't dream anymore. At least not in the way I used to. When I sleep, it's black, empty, no images, no narratives. It's like my mind learned that dreaming was dangerous and shut the door permanently. But sometimes, right before I fall asleep, I feel it. That pause. That moment where your thoughts slow and the world fades, and you hover between waking and sleep. That's when the memories surface. I see the yellow light beneath a door that isn't in front of me. I hear a knock that doesn't make a sound. I smell aftershave in rooms where no one has been. I've moved 3 times since leaving my parents' house. Different cities, different locks, different routines. It doesn't matter. The dreams don't follow the house. They follow me. Last year, I woke up to something resting on my nightstand. A red plastic train. I don't collect childhood toys. I don't own anything like it. I stared at it for a long time, waiting for logic to kick in. It never did. I threw it away that morning. 2 weeks later, it was back. That's when I realized something that made my blood run cold. The dreams were never meant to protect me. They weren't warnings. They were introductions. A way to make sure that when he finally appeared in the real world, I wouldn't scream, I wouldn't run, I'd recognize him. I've stopped talking to my parents about it. I don't think they could handle knowing that some doors never actually close, that some people don't need to break into your home to reach you. They just need to be remembered. Because once something learns how to live inside your mind, it doesn't need dreams anymore. And if you're listening to this late at night, half asleep, convinced that your house is safe, just remember, the mind always knocks first, and sometimes it doesn't knock at all.